4 Big Bang Theory storylines that didn't age well. When The Big Bang Theory premiered in 2007, it quickly gained traction as a quirky sitcom that blended geek culture with awkward social dynamics. With its nerdy charm, ensemble cast, and catchy one-liners, it became a television juggernaut that ran for 12 seasons and helped popularize everything from comic book fandom to physics jokes. However, as pop culture and societal awareness evolved, some Big Bang Theory storylines began to feel more dated and, in some cases, problematic. In hindsight, several recurring jokes and character arcs no longer align with today's more inclusive, nuanced perspectives on gender, relationships, and mental health. That doesn't mean the show has lost all value. It still holds nostalgia and entertainment for many fans, but rewatching it today reveals certain aspects that haven't aged as gracefully. Here are 4 major Big Bang Theory storylines that simply didn't stand the test of time. 1. Howard Wolowitz's early behavior toward women. Howard Wolowitz, the wannabe Casanova aerospace engineer, was originally framed as the group's sleazy ladies' man, despite having little actual success with women. In the early seasons, Howard's interactions with women were often invasive, creepy, and even bordering on harassment. While these moments were initially played for laughs, they become increasingly uncomfortable to watch through a modern lens. Howard routinely hit on women at work, on the street, and at social gatherings, often using sexual innuendos or pickup lines that ignored personal boundaries. A particularly cringe-worthy running gag was Howard's use of spy gadgets to eavesdrop or sneakily photograph women. In one early episode, he even used a robotic arm inappropriately, an incident the show depicted as humorous rather than deeply concerning. Over time, the show attempted to redeem Howard by pairing him with Bernadette and showing his growth into a more mature partner and father. While this character development helped, it doesn't erase how the show leaned into and normalized his earlier inappropriate behaviors. In a post-#MeToo world where consent and respectful workplace conduct are hot topics, Howard's actions no longer read as harmless dorky behavior. They feel exploitative and tone-deaf. 2. The treatment of Raj's sexuality and selective mutism. Raj Koothrappali was the group's lovable astrophysicist, but his character often felt like a punchline shaped more by stereotypes than substance. One of the most problematic aspects of Raj's storyline was the way the show handled or failed to handle his selective mutism, a psychological condition that rendered him unable to speak to women unless he was drunk. For several seasons, this condition was used purely as comic relief. Instead of exploring his social anxiety with empathy or depth, the show turned it into a gimmick. Cue the laugh track every time Raj squeaked, whispered, or mumbled his way through a scene. Eventually, he overcame this condition, but it was never given the meaningful development it deserved. In addition, the show constantly teased Raj's sexuality, often in ways that veered into uncomfortable territory. His close friendship with Howard was often framed as vaguely homoerotic, with frequent jokes suggesting Raj was secretly gay. However, rather than exploring the fluidity of male affection or challenging toxic masculinity, these moments felt more like queerbaiting. The show wanted the laughs, but not the responsibility of actual representation. It's not inherently offensive to joke about male friendship or question sexual identity, but The Big Bang Theory didn't do so thoughtfully. Instead, it relied on tired cliches and reinforced stigmas, especially about South Asian men, who are already underrepresented and often misrepresented on Western TV. 3. Amy Farrah Fowler's personality shift and stereotyping of nerd girls. When Amy Farrah Fowler was first introduced, she was essentially a female version of Sheldon, logical, robotic, and uninterested in romance. This was an exciting concept, a socially awkward, academically accomplished woman who didn't feel the need to fit traditional gender norms. Her early characterization pushed back against stereotypes, offering a refreshing take on women in STEM. But as the seasons progressed, Amy's personality shifted dramatically. She morphed from a stoic neuroscientist into a romantically desperate, emotionally needy woman obsessed with physical affection and social validation. Her longing for sex, her jealousy of Penny, and her desperate desire to fit in became frequent sources of humor. This transformation suggested that being a socially detached woman was somehow unnatural or incomplete, that for Amy to be happy, she had to conform to traditional romantic and feminine roles. The writers traded her original uniqueness for more sitcom tropes, diluting what could have been a groundbreaking portrayal of neurodiverse femininity. In hindsight, this change reinforces old stereotypes that nerdy girls are just waiting to be fixed with the right makeover or boyfriend. Rather than celebrating women who defy convention, the show steered Amy toward convention and framed it as personal growth. 4. The show's inconsistent approach to Sheldon's neurodivergence. Sheldon Cooper became the breakout star of The Big Bang Theory, largely due to Jim Parsons' phenomenal performance and the character's idiosyncratic, hyperlogical behavior. But Sheldon's quirks, obsessive routines, and social struggles closely resemble traits associated with autism spectrum disorder, even though the show never explicitly labels him as autistic. In fact, the creators went out of their way to deny it. Chuck Lorre and others publicly stated Sheldon wasn't written as autistic, which feels like a missed opportunity for meaningful representation. Instead, the show walked a fine line between showcasing neurodivergent traits and using them as comedic devices. Much of Sheldon's behavior, his discomfort with physical contact, his reliance on rigid routines, his inability to read social cues, was treated as punchlines. Characters often dismissed him as crazy or a lunatic, and his friends frequently mocked or manipulated him instead of supporting or understanding him. While some viewers saw reflections of themselves or their loved ones in Sheldon, others felt the show's handling of his character trivialized neurodivergence. Rather than fostering empathy, it often reinforced the idea that being different is inherently funny or annoying. The success of the prequel series Young Sheldon, which dives more deeply into Sheldon's childhood challenges, has helped retroactively deepen his character. But in The Big Bang Theory, his quirks were too often the butt of the joke, not something to be respected. Bonus: the lack of diversity beyond token characters. While The Big Bang Theory boasted a brilliant ensemble cast, its diversity was limited. Raj was the only main non-white character, and even he was written with a heavy reliance on stereotypes, from his arranged marriage pressure to jokes about his accent and family wealth. Other recurring characters of color like Priya, Lucy, or Denise were sidelined or short-lived. The series revolved around privileged, mostly white men, and women were largely introduced as love interests. For a show set in California and focused on academia, its lack of racial, cultural, and LGBTQ+ representation feels like a glaring omission in retrospect. Final thoughts. The Big Bang Theory was a product of its time, and like many long-running sitcoms, it carries the fingerprints of the era in which it was created. While it broke barriers in some ways, popularizing science and showcasing geek culture, it fell,